I interviewed George, Tommy and Kit about what the pandemic has been like in New Zealand.
Levels 1 to level 4. Level 4 was complete lockdown, and then level 1 is where we currently are. And that means we're pretty much life as normal, apart from the borders being closed to those other than Kiwis who have a New Zealand passport and who are residents. And we currently don't have any cases in the community. We only have cases within managed isolation, who are those who have just come back from overseas. So if you do come back into the country, you have to go into a mandatory 2-week isolation in a hotel. And then once that's happened, you then get released back into the country. But we haven't had any community cases for a couple of weeks now. And we did have a second outbreak, but that's all being sorted now. But level 4 was the whole country in lockdown and only essential services working. Pretty much, I know that UK had another lockdown just recently, but we're pretty much life as normal, apart from the borders being shut. So we have festivals coming up, we've had the races, we can have gatherings to whatever size we like, we can fly within the country, we can have sports events, so it is very much normal.
Yeah, well, other than the obvious signs that are around the streets and having to wear masks, you wouldn't really know that there is a global pandemic.
This was after they had a second outbreak here, but as soon as you got COVID-19, you would then it was law that you had to go into a hotel and manage isolation. So you were taken out of your home, you were taken out of any living arrangements you were to move into somewhere for 2 weeks. So I don't think that's the same thing as England. I think if you get it, you just have to sit at home and wait until it's over.
Basically, our Prime Minister caught wind of COVID and shut all the borders and basically just went hard and went early rather than waiting to a point where, it could have got too much to handle, like America, per se.
It was very much everyone at home. You weren't allowed to go anywhere unless you were going to the supermarket, and then you could go to this petrol station, and that was it. That's all Kiwis could do unless you're an essential worker and you were going to work. They've kind of been making them up as they go along. They'll bring rules in, take rules out, bring rules in, take rules out. Originally, masks were optional. And then with the second wave, they introduced them, and it was compulsory to wear a mask in Auckland, and it was compulsory to wear a mask on all public transport around the country, including taxis and Ubers. Then they took that away, and then they reintroduced that when they had another couple of community cases pop up. And I'm pretty sure it's now just masks on domestic airplanes and on buses up in Auckland, and that's it.
Christmas is pretty much
Christmas
life
is
as
happening.
normal. Yeah, there's currently no restrictions to anything.
No.
I don't think.
So we're level 1 at the moment, which means we're life as normal without borders being open. So we can have Christmas as normal. We don't really have much family over here, but we're having Christmas with some family friends, which will be really nice. And obviously it's summer here too, so we'll be going out on a boat, which is quite an odd concept, having a warm Christmas. But then we've also got New Year festivals and everything like that. So it's very much Christmas as normal. Touch wood, hoping there's no cases.
Yeah, well, Christmas is normal. Christmas is New Zealand normal.
Yeah.
Which is
not an English normal.
In and out of the pool with barbecue and whatnot, lounging in the sun, which is very strange and probably quite tricky for people in the UK to wrap their heads around.
I think we're just incredibly lucky to be where we are. I think sometimes we feel quite isolated because we especially want to be able to come back to England and see family and friends. But we are really lucky, and we're going to have Christmas, and we've all just finished a school year that has been a wee bit interrupted, but Kit was able to have his school leavers. He was allowed to have his school ball. We've got New Year festivals, and I think we are really incredibly lucky. And it's quite odd looking at the news and seeing the disaster of America and England.
Yeah, you don't really feel like it's happening until scrolling through Instagram or you're watching TV and there's a pop-up of England going back into lockdown or cases in America. You really forget about how New Zealand's coped with it.
I asked Gigi about her experience travelling back to Hong Kong.
The airport was surprisingly very crowded, which was not what I expected. But the general experience in the airport was fine. We had to get tested 72 hours prior our flight. So I got tested at school on a Saturday, and luckily it came back negative. Yay, so I could come back home. And at the airport, some people choose to do the testing at the airport on the day. That's what my brother did. We just went through the same security check-in, all that. And the flight was actually okay as well because I slept most of it. But then it was after I arrived back into Hong Kong airport, it was hectic. So I had to go through like a long process after my flight. So I actually stayed in the airport 12 more hours after my flight landed. So first we had to wait in a long queue for like around 2 hours just to get documents sorted. They have to check if you have because after we go back to Hong Kong, we can't just go back to our homes immediately. We have to quarantine at a hotel for 14 days. So they have to check if you have the correct documents saying that you have booked a hotel and documents that your test was negative in the UK. Then we have to get these wristbands on, and they track us basically in our hotels to make sure we don't go away or go out during these 14 days. Then after that, we have to do another testing at the Hong Kong airport, but that one was you have to do it by yourself. And if you do it wrong, you have to do it again, and might have to wait for 5 more hours at the airport. After we did our test, we have to wait for we waited for 10 hours to get our test back, and everybody else is on the flight test back as well. That was really, really, I wouldn't say it was bad, but it was just really boring because they give you a desk and a chair. You just sit there 10 hours, wait. They only give you a sandwich, some water, and biscuits. That's it. You have to last through the whole day with those. But then you just sat there. I didn't really do much. Yeah, it was really boring. But then after that, after we got our test back, it was already nighttime. We arrived like at 6 in the morning, and then we left around 6 in the afternoon. No, wait, it was like 8 in the afternoon, at night. And then after that, we immediately went to our hotel. So we were all really tired and everything. And now I'm just quarantining here. It's been a week, so I have 7 days left. But obviously, the whole journey is so tiring and so exhausting, and sometimes stressful because you have to keep track of all the documents to give you, keep track of what's going on, everything.
I talked to Alban about what the pandemic has been like in France.
So difficult. Actually, I'm in this situation. Any student who has the virus or who has had contact with any people who has the virus must leave school and take all the courses in remote. It's really difficult because it's not the same. We are through informatics and it's really different. Yes, it's difficult. Currently, we are still in lockdown, but the situation has greatly improved because there are fewer people in intensive care, so today it's better. In France, we can go out during the night of the 24th of December, but I prefer not to anticipate anything because the situation may change. In France, we must wear masks in any public place, and if we don't wear it, then we pay a fine of 135 euros.
I spoke to Sophie about the situation in America.
School's been good, not as bad as I was expecting it to be. So my school is hybrid right now, meaning that half of the school goes on alternating days. The the situation in America with the coronavirus is not amazing. We still have a lot of cases. We've surpassed 250K deaths, which is not good. A lot of the country still just doesn't think that COVID's a thing and refuses to wear masks. Not in my state though, luckily, because we're a blue state. The president is saying that he won the election, which he did not, and he's kind of refusing to handle this in a presidential way. It's a problem. So at my school, masks are needed at all times. You're supposed to wear a mask the entire day in classes and in corridors and everything. We get like 10-minute breaks every day for masks, which isn't, it sounds bad, but it's actually not that bad. I barely notice my mask anymore. And you're supposed to wear a mask when you go into any public place. We don't really have a plan for Christmas yet. So Thanksgiving is this Thursday, and we usually go to Connecticut to my mom's family and have like a big family reunion, but we can't do that this year for obvious reasons. We're thinking that maybe if we stay at home for Thanksgiving, then we can go to Connecticut for Christmas. I would make masks mandatory. I would probably, so we never had like a mandatory lockdown, like stay in your houses. We all did, or most of us did, but it was never like mandatory. I would probably put in a 2-week mandatory stay at home, which not a lot of people are a fan of, but I think we need it to like get back on our feet, because other countries are bouncing back from COVID and we're not yet. We're adapting to it, but we're not bouncing back from it. It's still a big problem.